I fondly remember meeting the great Namvar Singh a couple of times myself and listening to his splendid oratory. I'm sure it must have been an intellectual treat working on his writings. Dr. Usha Nair has successfully completed 2 minor research projects sponsored by UGC. She is presently the Academic Dean Humanities, Internal Quality Assurance Cell Coordinator 2. She was the Dean of Student Affairs 2. She is the Chairman, Board of Studies, Hindi at St. Teresa's College. She has been the NSS Program Officer. She was a staff advisor to the Arts Club, magazine editorial board member, and she has been the convener and the resource person at several international and national seminars. She has 3 publications each in international and national journals. I most humbly invite Dr. Usha Nair for the talk. Ma'am.
Namaste. Very good morning to all. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for the response. Now, let me begin by expressing my sincere appreciation to the IQAC of Bishop Moore College for organizing this online national workshop focusing on the assessment and accreditation framework of NAAC, an initiative which I believe will surely benefit all the institutions who are at different stages of preparing their SSR and those who wish to go in for accreditation in the near future. Thank you, Ranjit sir, for those warm words of welcome. I wouldn't say, I think it is on my part. I didn't share my CV. So I think you must have got it from the website. It is, I am not the IQAC coordinator at present. I was the IQAC coordinator 2 years back. Okay, presently coordinating the Paramarsh activities of the college. Anyway, thank you, sir, for those warm words of welcome once again. It is nice to see so many participants from different parts of the country coming together to discuss the NAAC revised accreditation framework on this virtual platform. And as I begin my session today, the first thought that comes to mind is how the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, has affected our education sector. How it has transformed the education system drastically and has brought a paradigm shift in the teaching and learning methodologies, forcing educational institutions across the globe to reimagine our traditional classroom teaching. Today, when we look back, maybe 2 years back at March 2020, we realized that then we had actually never considered an alternative to our classroom teaching. And ICT, for the exception of a few, for majority of us, it just meant using PowerPoints in class. Majority of us had actually never seriously considered online education as a credible model. Overnight, the pandemic imposed a radical switch to remote teaching and learning. All of us, I think, at that point of time, hoped that this would be a temporary phase. But as we coped with the most severe worldwide public health crisis of our lifetimes, we learned that this would last much more than our expectations. So we teachers upskilled ourselves to adjust to the new mode of teaching, just to make sure that learning remained accessible to our students. To be honest, I believe it wasn't easy for majority of the teachers. Suddenly, there was abundance of workload. There was lack of space at home for some, the presence of all family members at home, each sitting with a device, no outside help. There were net connectivity issues. From our side, very little or no exposure to online teaching. Our limitations were many, but we have showed great level of perseverance and have fairly succeeded in our battle to stay connected with our students. Today, I think we can proudly claim that it is the incredible determination of the teaching fraternity that helped us to quickly adapt to this new normal. Many videos on social media, especially those of school teachers, even primary school teachers, are testimony to the fact that today teachers are not just facilitators of learning. We have become innovators who strive to stay abreast with the emerging technology. The way we have adapted and risen to the occasion is ample proof of the fact that for every teacher, what we teach is definitely important. But even more important, or rather most important, is whom we teach, that is, our students. We invest a lot of our time and energy to equip them academically, to mentor them, to counsel them for academic and even personal matters, encouraging and appreciating them to participate in extracurricular activities, taking extra efforts to ensure that no one among our students falls into the pits created by the digital divide. Just look at the various dimensions of all the roles that we play. All these, I believe, can be put together under one term: student support. Well, criteria 5 of NAAC accreditation framework focuses on student support and progression. I believe that NAAC is trying to emphasize that supporting and enhancing the student experience from the point of first contact with the institution, which may be the admission procedure, and right up to becoming an alumni. Every step is important to succeed in higher education, not just for the student, but also for the institution. All of us would have gone through the RAF revised accreditation framework manual, and we would have surely noticed that though criteria 5 as per nomenclature is student support and progression, but the idea of student support can be seen across all these 7 criteria. Every criterion is formulated keeping in mind the progress, the well-being of our primary stakeholder, the student. Benchmarks have been set for
excuse
all
me,
the
ma'am.
activities. Yeah. Yes.
Ma'am, should I share the screen now?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I will. Yeah, I'll try, and if it
Okay.
doesn't work out, I'll request you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So we were talking about how student progression can be seen. The idea of student progression and support can be seen across all criteria. I said that every criterion is formulated keeping in mind the progress, the well-being of our primary stakeholder, the student. And all the benchmarks have been set for all the activities on just one basis. How does it benefit, and to what extent it benefits the student community? The add-on courses, even the feedback system in criteria 1, which was just discussed by Selvam sir. In criteria 2, you can see the special programs for advanced and slow learners, the mentoring program, the facilities for the Vyangjan students, and above all, the student satisfaction survey. All the efforts of any institution to make learning a meaningful process can be considered impactful only to the extent of student satisfaction. Similarly, one can trace the underlying concern for student welfare in almost all the criteria. I believe that while most of the other criteria focus on the process or the activities that we do, criteria 5 focuses more on the outcomes of these processes or our activities, where we have to give clear-cut answers as to how all our activities and our processes have actually benefited our students. So now let us go further into the details of the matrices in criteria 5. And at this point, I would like to share my presentation. Is the slide visible? Is the slide visible? Could somebody please respond?
Yes, it's
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
visible. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the response. I'm not able to put it on slideshow. I was just trying. Yeah, okay. I think I'll go ahead with this. Criteria 5 of NAAC framework is student support and progression. It focuses on the efforts of an institution to provide necessary assistance to students. What kind of assistance? Well, an assistance which will enable them to acquire meaningful experiences of learning at our campus and thus facilitate their holistic development. This criterion also looks into the progression of students to higher education and gainful employment and alumni profiles. This slide gives you an outline of the key indicators and also the weightages assigned for each key indicator. As you can see, student support and progression carries maximum weightage for affiliated colleges. From among the 4 key indicators, it is student support which carries the maximum weightage of 50. I have based my presentation on the manual for affiliated PG colleges, as I believe the host institution belongs to this category. There are 13 matrices altogether in these 4 key indicators, out of which 2 are qualitative or QLMs, and the rest 11 are quantitative or QNMs. Now, I hope the terms qualitative and quantitative do not give anybody the impression that only 2 matrices in this criteria are concerned with quality assurance, while others are just based on data. Well, that is not how it is. In all criteria, qualitative matrices focus on the process of quality assurance. Hence, you are expected to defend your claims for qualitative matrices in a descriptive manner. For quantitative matrices, it is the quantified outcomes, or rather the numerical figures, which will determine the marks pertaining to the quality of your work. Now, there are 5 opt-out matrices permitted in this criteria. I will elaborate on those towards the end of my presentation. As we go question-wise, I have incorporated the guidelines available in the SOP document. As you all know, the SOP, the Standard Operational Procedures for SSR, is a document which you will find on the NAAC website. It is a must-read document for any institution.
Huge network issues.
Oh, I'm not audible. What is happening? The slide is not visible.
I think, ma'am, you are quite audible. Possibly the network issue is from the side of the participant, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm able to hear you quite well.
Okay. So shall I continue then?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Yeah, thank you. So I was talking about the Standard Operational Procedures SOP document, which is available on the NAAC website. It is a must-read document for any institution going for accreditation, as it gives us a clear guideline regarding what are the documents that have to be furnished. Now, this is the first key indicator, 5.1, student support. Now, student support refers to the support that any higher educational institution is expected to offer to its students to help them to overcome their learning hurdles, or in other words, the challenges in the path to academic success. We all know as teachers that the hurdles could be many and varied. It could be the financial difficulties faced by the student arising due to their socioeconomic background. It could be the inability to use English. That itself could be a strong learning barrier for many students. In today's times, it could be the lack of access or inability to handle a computer or such devices. The support that we offer to our students to help them to overcome these challenges and to reach his or her maximum potential comes under this key indicator. Now, moving on to the components. The first question is the average percentage of students benefited by scholarships and freeships provided by the government during the last 5 years. Well, we need to collect the data pertaining to students availing government scholarships during our assessment period. A list prepared by the institution along with the sanction orders, notices, or similar documents which can be downloaded from the corresponding government website should be filed for this purpose. The SOP document on NAAC website gives us the following guidelines. Only government scholarships, freeships have to be included, and for large data, they might ask for randomly selected documents pertaining to randomly selected students. The next question is average percentage of students benefited by scholarships and freeships provided by the institution or non-governmental organizations during the last 5 years. We know that there are some students who are not eligible for government scholarships for maybe lack of appropriate supporting documents, or maybe because of not fulfilling certain eligibility conditions. It is important for institutions to have their own schemes of scholarships and freeships so that they may support such needy students. Now, regarding supporting documents, here it is mentioned that higher educational institutions should upload policy documents for awards of scholarships and freeships. Now, here we may just ponder on that point, that why does NAAC direct us to maintain policy documents for most of the important initiatives? Because in all institutions, there might be some great visionary, enthusiastic leaders who launch several good programs, several good initiatives that would flourish in their term of office. But when they leave the institution at any point of time, maybe due to retirement or transfer or any other reason, the initiative slowly becomes inactive and fades away. So if such initiatives are adopted by the management and policies are formulated accordingly, then it becomes part of the institutional culture. And its success will not depend solely on individuals. So we need a policy document here, along with year-wise list of students and proof of awards of freeships, scholarships, along with details of the sponsoring agency. Now let's have a look at what the SOP says. The guidelines are very similar to those of government scholarships, except that here, audited statement showing the expenditure on scholarships and freeships is also mandatory. Now, any teacher who has worked on compiling data with regard to scholarship details would surely agree that these matrices appear to be very simple and straightforward questions. But when you begin with the compilation, you realize that these are some of the most challenging matrices as far as maintaining error-free documentary evidences are considered. The point here is that NAAC not only expects institutions to document these scholarships or freeships, but also wants us to take the lead in ensuring that every eligible student in the campus avails this facility. It has been mentioned on several occasions in NAAC-sponsored programs that communicating to students through the student notice board or the college website or even a public announcement system in campus is not sufficient. A team of people, maybe teachers, non-teaching staff, should work under a nodal officer, ideally, and should facilitate and help students who have any difficulty or are hesitant for any reason. The idea is to ensure that maximum students benefit from the schemes. And at the same time, they also wish to rule out any possibility of data manipulation. So for government scholarships, data will now be further authenticated with the data that we submit to NIRF or AISHE or Atal ranking, etc. Similarly, for non-government or institutional scholarships also, please remember that informal cash contributions are not considered. Transactions have to be clear, valid, and only claims which can be substantiated through audit reports will be granted. Academic support or even financial support is often not enough to prepare a student to overcome the learning hurdles. So 5.1.3 talks about capacity building and skill enhancement initiatives. NAAC expects higher educational institutions to organize relevant programs for this purpose, and 4 areas have been identified and put forth. Beginning with soft skills. Now, soft skills, I believe, are personality traits or behaviors that will help our students to get hired and succeed in their work. Unlike technical skills or hard skills, which are job specific, soft skills are interpersonal and behavioral skills that help to work well with other people and to develop their career. Employers look for soft skills in candidates because these skills are hard to teach, but are very important for long-term professional success. Problem-solving ability, flexibility, teamwork, empathy, creativity, work ethics could be some examples. Second on the list is language and communication skills. Communication plays a fundamental role in our daily lives. For some of us, good communication comes naturally, but for many others, it can be harder to articulate their thoughts and feelings when talking. Failing to communicate effectively could result in missing their chance of securing their dream job or advancing in their career. We can help students to improve their language competency through workshops or similar training programs. Now, the next 2 on the list are skills which have gained profound importance in recent times. Life skills, categorized as yoga, physical fitness, health, and hygiene. Well, the importance of health and hygiene are the key lessons that we have learned during the pandemic, and NAAC underlines the crucial roles that institutions can play in supporting the health and well-being of our learners through several programs. Last on the list is ICT computing skills. Not so long ago, we spoke about the acquisition of ICT skills for enhancing a student's future professional performance. But today we know that ICT usage is becoming increasingly prevalent in day-to-day life. So people have become progressively dependent on their digital devices. Preparing our students for this virtual world is inevitable. Moving on to the SOP for this question. You can see that the documentation of the programs organized should be in a detailed and structured manner with the brochure, the report, the geotagged photos, the enrollment list of students, and copies of certificates issued. Now, besides equipping students with subject knowledge through the regular teaching learning process, it is important to prepare our students to make appropriate career choices. So 5.1.4 is about students benefited by guidance for competitive examinations and career counseling. We are all living in a competitive world, so we need to enlighten our students about the importance of competitive examinations and prepare them through exam-oriented classes, coaching classes, mock tests, etc. We need to facilitate opportunities for them to discuss their future goals and career aspirations. Such guidance helps them to make a shift from the general understanding of life and provides a more specific understanding of the realistic and practical career options that are available for them. Let's look at the data requirement. We need to give the number of students who have benefited. Please note that students benefited refers to the students who have enrolled or who are attending the said programs, and not those who have actually qualified. And for documentation, we require a brochure, a report of the program with photographs, and the attendance and certificates for the list for the selected list of students enrolled. 5.1.5 Mechanism for Timely Redressal of Student Grievances. Well, a grievance is a discontent or a dispute which could arise at any level in any organization. If the organization is an academic institution, then this issue becomes more sensitive and important. Young students are the most vulnerable entities in any society because they often fail to express and sometimes fail to seek proper support for the issues they face at numerous levels. Well, the context of grievances could be many. We always take pride in the diversity of our country, which has so many unique languages, traditions, religions, food habits, and so on. And colleges, we would all agree, are in many ways a microcosm of the nation, representing multiple kinds of people, people of different races, gender, ethnicity, culture, religion, sexual orientation, all under one banner. However, when it comes to India, the issue of diversity can take different connotations. Our behavior as a society often reflects problems with assimilation and acceptance of differences. This could happen in our campuses also. Now, protection of human rights and dignity of every student becomes very essential, and it is important to have a well-formulated grievance redressal mechanism with zero tolerance policy towards ragging, towards sexual harassment, or any other kind of physical or mental harassment. The first step in this direction is the constitution of various internal committees as directed by UGC. These committees should meet periodically and function effectively. The students should be aware of the functioning mechanism of these committees, and they should also be aware of how to raise a grievance, whom to contact, and there should be a provision for online and offline submission of grievances. Last but not the least, these grievances should be redressed immediately if and when they arise. Moving towards the SOP. We have to upload policy documents with reference to Prevention of Sexual Harassment Committee and Anti-Ragging Committee. Maintain proof of constitution of various committees for addressing the issues, minutes of the meetings of these committees, and number of cases received and redressed. The mechanism of redressal should be available as document and should be on the HEI's website. Moving on to the next key indicator, which is student progression. The matrices here evaluate the institution's concern for student progression to higher studies or to employment. So we are expected to identify the reasons if attainments in these areas are poor and to plan and implement remedial measures. Such good practices should be sustainable and should facilitate vertical movement of our students from one level of education to the next higher level or towards gainful employment. Students qualifying for state, national, international level examinations or competitions should also be identified by the institutions. Now, the first matrix here focuses on placement details. What are those factors that students today consider while looking for a college to pursue higher studies? I suppose good infrastructure, experienced faculty, well-planned academic courses, a good campus life. But last and not the least is a well-established placement cell. The career guidance and placement cell of the college should make every effort to bridge the gap between the stringent competition in the industry and the talent available in our college. With adequate training and support, the students should be able to enhance their skills and understand how to showcase their abilities in the best possible way. Not only the placement cell offers training programs to students to develop skills, but also facilitates the process of recruitment for all eligible students. These initiatives were actually discussed in the previous key indicator 5.1, student support. And here in 5.2, we are actually looking at the outcomes of those initiatives, the results of our programs and the efforts that we had undertaken. Let's look at what the SOP says. Along with the SSR, we need to submit a list of the students placed. The list should be attested by the college principal, and it should contain all relevant details like the name of the student, the name of the organization in which he or she is employed, salary details, etc. During data validation, they may ask for the appointment order of randomly chosen students. Please note that the data submitted here is pertaining to students placed through our placement drives or even recruitment drives organized by other institutions. 5.2.2 is about students who, instead of placements, opt for continuing their education. We have to submit the data pertaining to students who go from UG to PG, from PG to MPhil or PhD, and further from MPhil to PhD, and from there on to postdoctoral. For data validation, any relevant proof that the student has enrolled in a particular institution for higher studies will have to be produced. It could be an admission letter, it could be a copy of the ID card, or even a bona fide certificate. If the student enrolls for higher education in our institution itself, then in that case, a validation from the principal would be sufficient. But please note that just being selected for admission is not enough. In the previous key indicator student support, the question was regarding how many students were given training or coaching for competitive examinations, just the number of students who attended the training or coaching programs. Here in 5.2.3, they are asking us about the outcome, about the percentage of students who actually qualified in the competitive examinations. And as per the SOP, the valid proof for claims made in 5.2.3 would be copies of qualifying certificates of these students. And if we are, please remember, if you are unable to furnish the certificates, the claim might be rejected. So one thing is very clear, that all the three matrices in the key indicator 5.2, student progression, we need the data pertaining to students' achievements after they pass out or when they are in the completion stage of final year. Now here, teachers will have to make an extra effort and keep track with the students to be able to successfully provide data and corresponding proof for this matrix, that is 5.2. 5.3 is students' participation in activities. The key indicator emphasizes that academics and extracurricular activities go hand in hand in raising a well-rounded individual. It is important to provide an environment which will facilitate their academic growth and at the same time groom their overall personality and foster their holistic development. 5.3.1. The question is regarding awards and medals won by students in sports and cultural activities. The levels of competitions are also specified. It should be a university, state, national, or international event. Moving on to the SOP, proof will be e-copies of certificates or award letters. Some recent modifications made by NAAC with regard to this question. Earlier, when we went for the accreditation, only state, national, and international events were considered, but now university level has also been incorporated. So the Youth Festival, University Youth Festival can now be considered here. We can also see a special mention of student participation in Republic Day Parade. The SOP also indicates that we should refrain from including mere participation certificates here and also exclude events which are of college level or regional level. 5.3.2 is about grooming leaders. Well, there is a leader in every child. A gentle nudge is sometimes all that he or she requires to come forward. The involvement of students in different areas of operation of a college is undoubtedly a critical part of their learning. This is also the first qualitative metrics in criteria 5. It inquires about students' representation in various bodies and also the functioning of student council. In a maximum of 500 words, we need to describe the role of students and their engagement in important positions. Please remember that it is the peer team which examines the authenticity of the claims that we make in qualitative matrices. So you can be sure that the claims that you make under 5.3.2 will be directly verified by the peer team when they have a student interaction session. Next is a quantitative matrix, a QNM 5.3.3, which requires data pertaining to students and cultural events organized and the details of student participation in the same. Regarding the SOP guidelines, different activities which are part of a single event will be counted as one. To clarify that point a little more, it means that if 5 or 6 different departments of a college are organizing different competitions or programs to commemorate a day of national importance, for example, Independence Day, please remember that it will be counted as a single activity and not as 5 or 6. So from facilitating holistic development of students, we move on to the next key indicator, 5.4, which is alumni engagement. Now, creating an engaged, supportive alumni network is crucial for any institution's success. We would all agree that there can be no better brand ambassadors for any college than our own alumni. There are 2 questions in this key indicator. 5.4.1 is a qualitative matrix. It inquires whether we have a registered alumni. It is obvious that all institutions which have pass-out batches would be having alumni get-togethers and meetings, but the specific question here is whether it is a registered association, and which are the ways in which the alumni offers support to the institution and its current batch of students. 5.4.2 is the last matrix of criteria 5, and this quantitative matrix focuses solely and directly on the financial contributions made by the alumni to the institution. As per the SOP, the contributions are to be monetary or equivalent. Now, all claims made here have to be validated by an audited statement of accounts. Now, I would like to conclude our discussion today on criteria 5 by mentioning the optional or the opt-out matrices. NAAC gives us the facility to opt out some of the matrices which may not be applicable to certain institutions for various reasons. Now, there are clear guidelines on the NAAC website on how to choose the opt-out matrices. I have mentioned those here, that the maximum weightage of matrices that can be opted out shouldn't exceed 30, that is 3%. Okay. Now, the matrices with a maximum of total 10 weightage per criteria. Criteria 1, 2, and 7 are essential. So that is opt-out matrices would be only pertaining to criteria 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, even within these criteria, what we need to remember is you cannot just randomly choose any matrix. The matrices identified as optional can only be opted out. No QLMs can be opted out. All QLM matrices are compulsory, mandatory. Now, talking about the opt-out matrices in criteria 5. These are the opt-out matrices here. Average percentage of students benefited by scholarships, freeships, etc. It has a weightage of 5 points. So that is one of the opt-out matrices permitted here. Average percentage of placement of outgoing students, that carries a weightage of 10. So which means that if you decide to opt out this particular question, you cannot opt out any other question from this particular criteria again. Now, average percentage of students progressing to higher education. There is also average percentage of students qualifying in state, national, international examinations. And finally, alumni contribution during the last 5 years. These are the opt-out matrices in criteria 5. So I would now conclude my presentation. I sum up, hoping that I could convey the essence of criteria 5, which looks at the holistic development of our students. Holistic is the key word here. We want students who are job ready and fit for the global world. At the same time, we want them to be individuals leading a meaningful, value-based life, proving to be worthy citizens of the nation. So let us together be able to realize the goal of true education by molding students with a beautiful blend of intelligence and character. Thank you all for your patience, for your time, your attention. And once again, a special word of gratitude to the IQAC team of Bishop Moore College for this opportunity. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Usha Nair began her talk by reminding us about the pandemic situation and how online teaching happened and how we fought against the odds and succeeded, how we quickly adapted to the new normal. She said it is in such crisis that the teachers proved that they are not just facilitators of knowledge, but are innovators. And this is precisely what Criterion 5, student support and progression, demands from the teachers. However, she reminded us that this idea of student support and progression is not just seen in criteria 5, but is spread across all criteria. She then dwelt into detail on the matrices of criteria 5. The session is now open for the participants to ask questions, clarify, and give suggestions. So while we wait for the questions, there is a message for the participants. 2 links have been posted. One is a feedback for the session, and the second one is a data collection for the certificates. So participants will have to fill in both the links. So,
sir, I think I made a mistake with your name in the beginning.
I'm Anup Nair. Ranjit sir is the IQAC coordinator of this college.
I know. Because he was in touch with me. I
said
his name came to my mind. Thank you, sir. Anyway.
Thank you, ma'am. So we wait for your comments, suggestions, questions. So in the chat box, people are thanking you, ma'am, for the excellent, informative session. So would you like any clarifications, participants? You can unmute and ask it yourself, or you can put it in the chat box.
Can you please explain your experience while dealing with this criterion while you were the IQAC coordinator of synthesis?
Yes, I think the question that I was expecting here was generally every time we discuss criteria 5, the question that is often asked is that with regard to scholarships, one of the probably the most challenging matrices here, because it is difficult to collect data. All the questions here are very straight, but criteria 5 is extremely challenging because all the data has to be collected directly from the students. The college does not have a direct access to how many students have actually availed scholarships. There's no other way. So I can just, as the IQAC coordinator of that period, I think this could just be an experience sharing, that we have developed a system where we have an office, a non-teaching staff and a team of teachers, and also a team of students, a core group of students, which is the IQAC student wing, who help us at class level to gather information with regard to which student. Monthly, we get an updation, monthly updation to the IQAC from the student wing as to which are the students who have received scholarships. I think that is one question. And also, when we started working on the on preparation of RAF, SSR, I think another challenging area was with regard to student placement and student progression to higher studies. We're talking about back data. That is, a student passes out and we have actually developed a system where every third year, final year UG and final year PG class teacher is in touch with the student for another 2-3 years through the WhatsApp group, which is created, where students regularly update the teachers as to where they are placed. And we encourage every final year class teacher to have a rapport, to maintain a rapport with the students and make sure that, because that is the best source. The teacher is the best source. No student will actually take the trouble to just inform the IQAC. That is not possible. It comes only from the rapport that they have with the final year class teacher. Not any class, any teacher they are close to. Teachers are the best source of information here. So that is the practice that we follow, and it is working in our favor, especially because placement and student progression becomes very important, not just for NAAC, but also for NIRF also. So that is something which I would like to share as our experience.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Also, one query, ma'am, regarding alumni contribution, as you mentioned, if we are getting, like some donations like that, how we can include it in the audited statements?
In our case, we have the alumni has a separate account and they have an audited statement. It is a registered alumni. They have a separate account and they have they provide us with audited statements toward the end of every financial year.
Actually, but I asked is if it is in form of computers or like that, any infrastructure.
They have to maintain the bills.
Okay. It should be through that.
Yeah, it should be audited. That is it. It can be actually even cash contributions. We should be issuing proper receipts, and that should be included in the audited statement. No claims which cannot be included in the audited statements will be entertained. That is it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. This is a nice presentation. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am, suppose if a student is in undergraduate level, he finishes his BA, BSc or BCom and then goes to some other college and does his PG there. And he lands up with a job. So,
there so we cannot. Yeah, after they complete their post-graduation from some other institution, if they get placed, that we cannot claim. But higher education, definitely, because suppose it's a post-graduation student, if he goes for a PhD, maybe even after a small break, you can claim that as a student progression to higher education, because the PhDs are often not possible immediately. So that we can claim. But placement, if they have studied in between in some other institution, that cannot be claimed.
Okay. So in case if there aren't any questions,
I have a query. I have a query, Anup sir.
Yes, please.
Yeah, Usha ma'am.
Yeah.
The question is regarding campus placement. That is 5.2.1. Percentage of students placed through campus placement. Could you kindly explain what campus placement actually means? Whether it should be conducted in the college or any other college?
Yeah, as I said, it can be conducted either by our own placement cell or any other college which conducts recruitment drives. There could be recruitment drives organized by another institution. They inform us. We send our students for those placements. We need to maintain documentary evidences that this was the brochure we received and this is how we nominated our students. We just need to have proper documentation, proper records that we had actually directed our students to go there and they were finally selected. It has to be campus placement, either organized by the institution themselves or any other similar educational institution.
So, ma'am, the second column of the template asks for name of student placed. So, does that imply campus placed via campus placement?
From personal experience, we were also not very sure. So we had included other students who were placed through other sources also, but all that was not accepted during data validation. Only through for randomly selected students they were asking, and only for those which we could furnish placement, actual placement activity details, only those were considered.
Okay, so that means the template is devoted to campus placement details.
Yes, yes, campus placement.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
So I suppose there are no more questions. I invite Ms. Rekha Rose Koshi, Assistant Professor, Department of Chemistry, Bishopur College, to propose the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, all. Respected Dr. Usha Nair and all the participants attending the seminar. It's my privilege to propose vote of thanks for this session. First of all, I thank our speaker, Dr. Usha Nair, for orienting us about the role of higher education institutions in student support and progression. Ma'am spoke in detail about the role of higher institutions and teachers in supporting students and enabling their progression. Ma'am gave us a comprehensive idea of different aspects of Criteria 5, which is sure to equip us to thoroughly complete our SSR. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your wonderful presentation. It was really informative and very clear. Thank you so much for being part of the seminar, and we hope to interact with you in the future also. Thank you. I would also like to thank Dr. Anup Nair Chandrasekhar for chairing the session. And I also thank all the participants for your keen attention. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, there's some participant has asked whether you can share the PPT with them.
Yeah, I think I have already mailed the PPT to the IQ.
Yeah. There.
You may share the same.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Anup,
So
sir?
that, I think we come to the end of the session, and thank you very much, Usha ma'am. And I think the next session.
Sir, shall I give a few instructions, sir?
Please, please.
Dear participants, we have posted a link for collecting data for the certificates. Please kindly fill it up, because if you receive this this form only, we can issue the certificates. And please kindly note to give the data without any mistake, and that will be printed as such in the certificate. So please be careful while submitting that certificate data collection form for certificate. Also, those who want attendance certificate also can, there's a question in that form itself whether you want an attendance certificate for producing for the requesting for duty leave. So those who want that also, you can mark yes in that data collection form. If you can submit it at the earliest, duty leave attendance certificate will be issued today itself. But the participation certificate, after all the sessions, the attendance will be monitored and it will be issued later within 4 or 5 days only. For all the oral presentations, the certificates have been issued. So the next session will be at 1 p.m. Please join in time. In the valedictory session, our chief guest, NAAC advisor, yes, Panvidiraj sir will be joining. So please stay online for all the other coming sessions also. Thank you all once again. So we can join at 1 p.m. for the next session by Dr. Gigi Thomas.